because the explanation that I'm going to give you now is just a complement. Because there are few hypotheses about this ancient city. I'm going to tell you one of them that according most of the archaeologists, according most of the historians, is close to the true history of this place. But first of all, I would like to tell you, welcome to Machu Picchu. Welcome to the last spiritual refuge of the Incas. The modern history of this place started a real long time ago in the United States, especially in the Yale University, because it was a student originally from Honolulu, Hawaii, and his name was Hiram Bingham. And he was studying in the Yale University the South American history, and he was interested especially in the independence war of South America. During the independence war of South America against Spain, we had two important liberators. One of them, sorry, it was Joseph de San Martin from Argentina, and the other one was Simon Bolivar from Venezuela. Both of them represent South America what Benjamin Franklin represented the United States, if you want to compare. And this American student, he went first to Argentina to follow the road of Joseph de San Martin from Argentina all the way to Chile across the Andes. And during his journey, he took a lot of pictures, he took a lot of notes. Right after that, he went to Venezuela and he followed the road of Simon Bolivar from Venezuela all the way down to Lima. When he got Lima, he met many historians, many archaeologists, many people expert in the Peruvian history. And suddenly he became interested in the Peruvian history, especially in the Inca history. In some of the old libraries of Lima, he found a lot of information about the Incas. In some of them, he found some ancient reports that were talking about the last city of the Incas, or perhaps they were talking about the lost city of the Incas. With all this information that he got in Lima, he went back to the US to get money from the Yale University and National Geographic Society. And around 1912, he came back to Peru. He came back leading a big expedition, all of them specialists from the Yale University, among them professors, astronomers, uh, and a lot of astronomers, a lot of archaeologists, a lot of historians, some botanists, some geologists, some civil engineers. And when they arrived Cusco around 1911, it was only a small town. And the mayor of this little town, he was very happy to get foreigners. He was happy to get some specialists. That's why he said, I would like to support this expedition, supplying a local guide or a local leader. And the local leader, it was a military. He was the Sergeant Carrasco. And as a military, he knew very well all this region. As a military, he knew very well the inhabitants of this large valley because he used to work in this area. Well, this expedition, they set up the final part of their trip in Ollantaytambo, where they hired a lot of horses, a lot of donkeys, a lot of mules, a lot of pack animals to transport the luggages and the gear and the food that they got from the United States. Do you remember Ollantaytambo, where we spent the night? It's in that place where they hired all these pack animals. And after they came to this area, only following this large canyon. At that time, we had already at the bottom of the mountain a dusty path that was built in the earlier times to communicate the highland, the high plateau with the lowlands from where we used to get a lot of fruits, a lot of medicinal plants, and especially a lot of coca leaves. July 23 when finally this expedition arrived to the bottom of this mountain where he set up his campsite next to the house of some locals, next to the house of some farmers. And after the Hiram Bingham asked them like this, I'm looking for the lost city of the Incas. Would you like to tell us where is it? And the campesinos, they said, sorry, we don't have lost cities here. But one of them said, but if you're looking for a big Inca city, this campesino, this farmer, pointing out the summit of one mountain that we have here, he said like this, up there in Machu Picchu, there is a big Inca city. What is exactly Machu Picchu? Machu Picchu is the name of this mountain. Up there in Machu Picchu, there is a big Inca city. So which means the name of the mountain is Machu Picchu, means old mountain, old mountain. But since at that moment he called to this ancient city with the name of the mountain. Following day, very early in the morning, July 24 of 1911, Hiram Bingham, with part of his expedition, he climbed from the bottom all the way to the top. Actually, the campesinos that morning, they refused to take him from the bottom all the way to this place. Because according to his own report, it was very wet morning, very rainy. But Hiram Bingham, he offered some extra solace to them, and the campesinos finally accepted. That's why Hiram Bingham, he wrote in his report like this. When I was climbing to Machu Picchu mountain, I met many poisonous snakes, many marsupials, many spectacle bear, a lot of deer, many colorful birds. What does mean exactly this part of his report? That at the beginning of the last century, all these mountains, all this region, it was completely like a huge jungle. Thick vegetation growing absolutely all over these mountains, all over this place. Thick vegetation growing all over this sacred city. And then after a couple of hours approximately, they got where is located now the bus station, where is located the toilet facilities. And when they got there, they found in this place two families living there. Actually, these campesinos, they clear up some of these terraces to grow food. They were growing at that time sweet potato. They were growing a lot of corn, a lot of beans, especially a lot of coca leaves. But the urban area of Machu Picchu, the most important area, it was completely absorbed by thick vegetation. Enormous trees growing absolutely all over the place. Plants and herbs growing all over the walls, all over the side. My dear friends, Hiram Bingham, he got a little boy from these families. Probably he was around 11 years old. With this little boy, he explored by side the entire place. That's why mistakenly some of the handbook writers consider him like the guide of Machu Picchu, or some of them they said, oh, it was a boy, he was the only one that knew about Machu Picchu and he took to Hiram Bingham through the city. Well, I really like the story, it's very romantic. But it's not true at all. He was just a little boy that belonged to these Quechua families, and probably he knew very well the site because he lives next to it. Anyway, this American explorer, he took a lot of pictures, he took a lot of notes all over this place, and with all this information, he went back again to the United States to get more money from the Yale University and National Geographic Society. And around 1912, just 1 year later, he came back to Peru, and he got one special permission from the Peruvian government to explore the place, to dig out the city, to clear up from vegetation. My dear friends, he got the permission, but he wanted to dig in a hurry. That's why from the surround, from all over the mountains that we have here, he hired a lot of campesinos, a lot of farmers, a lot of peasants to do all this archaeological prospection. And when they got here around 1912, they start to clear up from the vegetation. They start to do all this archaeological prospection. My dear friends, I think that is the beginning of the destruction of this important site, because those farmers, those peasants, those campesinos, they didn't have any idea about archaeology. They didn't know exactly where to dig, how to dig, and what kind of information to pick during these excavations. Part of the history of Machu Picchu gone with the first prospection that they performed around 1912. Anyway, the question is, what did they find at that time? Approximately 165 mummies, most of them located in natural holes and natural caves around this important mountain, around this important place. Exactly similar to Pisac. Do you remember Pisac, the first day when we went to the Sacred Valley? The burial place, it was next to it in the canyon. Very similar happens in this place. Around this big mountain was found the most important burial place. 165 mummies. Most of them were already damaged as consequence of the humidity of this place, but some of them were still well preserved. So what does it mean? Burial place next to this site. So which means they were having here a normal lifestyle. So which means they had their religious area, they had their urban area, at the same time their burial place. What else? They found a lot of tools like crowbars, hammers, chisels, round river stones that they use as hammers, spread out all over the city. So which means they were still splitting the rocks in the quarries. Still they were dragging the huge stones from the quarries all the way to the structures, all the way to the walls, all the way to these important sites. Still they were polishing by hand with harder rocks most of the walls, most of the structures, most of the temples and palaces that we have in this place. What else? They also found a lot of artifacts made of wood, especially harder woods. And they found a lot of artifacts made of pottery, especially cooking pots, especially a lot of plates, especially a lot of dishes. So which means in this place they were having a normal lifestyle when suddenly happened something. The question is, what exactly might happen in this place? My dear friends, around 1534 we got the first conquerors, we got the first Spaniards. And when the conquerors, when they got Cusco, they started to murder part of the royalty, part of the higher class. My dear friends, the Mexican conqueror is Hernan Cortés. And when Hernan Cortés got Mexico, he started to murder the privileged class because he understood that the leaders of the Mexican society were located in this small group in the privileged class. The same thing happens in South America, in Peru. The conqueror of Peru is called Francisco Pizarro, a Spanish soldier without any education, but expert to conquer these kind of places. And when he got Cusco in the same way, he started to murder the royalty and the higher class. But one of them, a prince, his name was Manco Inca, taking his family with him, taking his army with him from Cusco, he escaped to another big Inca city located behind all these mountains, behind the glaciers that we have here in the east. The name of the city is Vilcabamba, and Vilcabamba is considered like the last refuge of Inca rebels. And when he escaped to Vilcabamba, he took another way, located very close to Ollantaytambo, because that is the closest way. Hard way, but the close way to get there. But when he escaped from Cusco and when he got Ollantaytambo, he sent many Inca running messengers to all over the cities, delivering this message that barbarians, that perhaps some foreigners, barbarians, they destroying the city, that the barbarians are disturbing the sacred places, the barbarians are destroying everything. So he delivered the message that he's escaping up there. Where he going to wait for all of them? Where he gonna be able to get all of them? Perhaps to preserve part of the society, part of the empire. My dear friend, just imagine some of these Inca running messengers running all the way fast to this place. And when they got here, they delivered this message that barbarians are destroying the sacred city. In that moment, my dear friends, the population of this place in a hurry, taking with them their most important things, their most important idols, their most important mummies, their most important artifacts. They start to leave the city systematically. That's way with the archaeologists, they found artifacts, they found tools spread out all over the city because they were having normal lifestyle. It's like, for example, here your packs are everywhere, but if we would get some natural catastrophe, probably we're not taking much of the things. It's exactly the way how they found here. They forgot to take with them most of the things because they took with them only their most important things. They left behind only guards. They left behind only servants to keep the name of this place, to keep the daily lifestyle of this place. But my dear friends, the diseases travel more faster than anything in this life, especially smallpox that was introduced from Europe, especially the flu. Our bodies didn't have any defense against all these diseases. And then the population started to disappear very quick, all in the Andes, in the jungle and on the coast. The population decreased very, very fast as consequence, especially of this disease. This disease arrived also to this place, and then all these inhabitants, all these guards, all these servants died. Suddenly the vegetation started to grow all over the city, all over these mountains, and then disappeared in the mind of the people because it was lost for almost 400 years because it was rediscovered only at the beginning of the last century. That's why Machu Picchu is very well preserved because the Spaniards never got here. That's why you cannot see any Spanish building in this place. That's why you cannot see any Catholic church in this place because the site it was completely unknown by the Spaniards because the whole city was completely absorbed by the thick vegetation. The question perhaps is, when was built Machu Picchu? How long took to them to build Machu Picchu? What was exactly Machu Picchu in the Incan ideology? First of all, my dear friends, around 1438, our Night King, he rose to the power. Our Night King Pachacutec, considered like the Alexander the Great of South America. He reorganized his society, he reorganized his army, and then he reorganized the religion. because after him, the sun became the most important god, just after him. And after that, he built in many different sites important temples, important palaces, but especially important astronomical observatories. And, and with him is when they started to build Machu Picchu around 1438, but took approximately 100 years to build the city until 1534 when they abandoned the city. 100 years approximately, 3 generations working very hard in this place. The question is, what was exactly Machu Picchu in the history of the Incas? It was the most important religious city on the way to the jungle. Because, my dear friends, Cusco, it was, it was the political, economical, military, administrative, and religious center of the empire, the ancient capital of the Incas. But on the way to the jungle, they built their most important spiritual place, habited only by the most important people of the empire. Among them, professors, astronomers, teachers, healers, doctors, shamans. So which means the most skillful people of the empire live in this place. But the question is why? The question is why we need to, why the most skillful people of the society in this place? Because, my dear friends, in one society that has not any written system, in one society that has not a writing system, it was necessary to keep in this kind of places the most skillful people of the empire that are going to pass down the skills to the next generations. That's why in one moment Machu Picchu also was considered like the University of the Incas. No written system, no records, but they had one accounting system. The accounting system, it was like this, a wide string. From this wide string were hanging many thin strings with different colors, where they used to record only numbers, only quantity of people, quantity of soldiers, quantity of enemies, quantity of towns, quantity of everything, things to different type of notes. My dear friends, the name of this place, it was called Quipu, or the Inca noting system. If you want to compare, it's very similar to the Chinese abaco in the way how works the system. Very similar. But again, it was accounting system. In this accounting system, they were able to record a town. They were able to record everything, but was not exactly a writing system. That's why it was necessary to keep the most skillful people of the empire in this kind of places. Example, my friends. For example, if some natural catastrophe is going to happen in the world, if the human being were able to survive to this natural catastrophe, the next generations, they're going to be able to build it up again, because we already recorded everything in the books. There are some special universities that they store all the knowledge, all the skills in special computers. So we recorded everything. So the next generations, they're gonna be able to build up again the civilization. But what about that one civilization that has not any written system? How are you going to guarantee that your civilization, your empire, are going to go on? How? That's why it was necessary to keep in this kind of places, in this kind of sacred places, the most skillful people, because they're gonna be the only ones that are gonna pass down the skills, the information to the next generation. That's why Machu Picchu is special. My dear friends, as I told you, only pilgrimage came to Machu Picchu, part of the royalty, part of the higher class, part of the religious class. So which means only for special people. And the Inca Trail pilgrimage, when they were close to the Sun Gate, just imagine guys, when they were close to the Sun Gate, they sent probably 2 Inca running messengers. Imagine the Inca running messengers with a nice colorful tunics until here, with a nice belt made of these beautiful textiles. And then imagine them with a nice feather headdress, one pouch like this hanging to one side, another pouch hanging to the other side, and one of them coca lips, in the other, perhaps in the other one of these strings of the communication system, and then one of them a shell. Because when he got the Sun Gate, just think about it, probably they blow up the shell as a trumpet. Just imagine the echo in between all these mountains. Why? Because they were announcing that they are arriving, announcing that they were close. Why they need to announce? Because from here, at the same time, they play back these shells, these trumpets, because they're going to welcome to all of them. To welcome them, they must create a really nice atmosphere. How they gonna create it? Playing some flutes, pan flutes, drums, singing, because that is the way how all these pilgrims they must enter in the city, and they're going to enter in the city, in the holy city, through the main entrance located in the upper part. It was kind of wooden door with many guards controlling the entrance of this place, and all the Inca trail pilgrims coming. Just imagine them. Just imagine the music. Just imagine just like the seashells, and then they're going to enter there. Because the holy city, it was protected by kind of great wall, and we can see still remains of the great wall here. It was going all the way down, and we can see that it's surrounding the whole mountain down there. Because the whole urban area was protected by kind of great wall, with so many guards on the walls protecting this place. And what else? Once all these pilgrims they got this place, they perform some important ceremonies. What else? What about the terraces? Farming fields? Unfortunately, that is the most common explanation, easier explanation, farming fields. But again, they were not farming fields, they were only retaining walls. Because if you have a look carefully, you're going to see Machu Picchu, the whole urban city, is located on top of the hill, on top of the mountain. My dear friends, Machu Picchu is over 2,500 meters above sea level. As a consequence of this location, Machu Picchu is considered like the end of the highland, the end of the Andes, and the beginning of the subtropical area or jungle area. As a consequence of this location, Machu Picchu has one special microclimate. As a consequence of this location, in Machu Picchu rains more than other cities, more than other places. The Inca civil engineers, they knew very well this detail. That's why it was necessary first to stabilize the mountain. How do you stabilize the mountain? Only with the terraces coming from the bottom all the way to the top, almost like a big pyramid. That's why the terraces, they are following the natural contour of the mountain. And then, once you got the terrace, what you gonna do there? Like some of you told me this morning, I would grow flowers. Obviously, I would grow flowers too, because this is a spiritual place. This is a sacred place. Why the flower? Because created a beauty. Flower created a beauty. I would grow too what? Ceremonial plants, healing plants, medicinal plants. Because if I'm going to one sacred place to heal my spirit, I'm also looking for to heal my body. What do I need to heal my body? I need also what? Medicinal plants. That was the main purpose of the city, my dear friends. Was not a city, was not an urban area, was not a town. It was a special and spiritual place, only habited by the most important people of the empire. How many people would live in Machu Picchu? Thanks to the number of rooms that we have in Machu Picchu, archaeologists estimate the population in approximately 500. Only 500 for such a big city. And from these 500, not even 100 were royalty. Not even 100 were royalty or higher class. Only few. Most of them were servants. Most of them were people in charge to maintenance of this place. Most of them were guards to protect this important site. But again, not only the Inca Trail is the way to get here. There is another way to get here, through the valley. And there is another way to get this place from the other side of the mountain. But the main one, the most important one, it seems that was this one, what we followed the last 4 days. Okay, my dear friends, is there any question until here, please?